Yay. Okay, I can see comments. That makes me feel better about getting started. So I will get started. So today I am talking about the impact of clutter on our lives, and what we can do about it. So I'm going to start out, just tell a little bit of my story, so bear with me. But when I was pregnant with my second child, and then also just after he was born, I was so overwhelmed. I was anxious, I was depressed, I was struggling. Good morning, Yvette. It might not be morning where you are. I'm not sure the time difference for South Africa. But I was struggling. I was constantly slammed with mom guilt, because I was ignoring my kids all the time. I was too busy all the time. I was never getting projects done that wanted done. I was feeling like I was a failure all the time. And I felt like, I should just know. I should just know all of this. It should just come naturally. Being a mom should just, and like being a housekeeper I should just know. Hi, Diane. Yeah, I guess. Okay, afternoon for you. This is like early morning for me. My kids are still sleeping. So I felt like I should just be good at all of it. I felt like I should be good at cleaning, cooking, crafting, knowing the right thing to say all the time, organizing. And I was really ashamed of myself. And so there were piles everywhere. I just couldn't keep up. And I do mean there was piles everywhere. I was kind of clutter blind, right? I just didn't even notice it anymore. So I remember a real tipping point for me was one time I decided I was going to try to deep fry. This is something that I don't think I've ever done since, because this traumatized me so much. And it was the first time I had ever tried it. And there was a stack of papers, and not neatly, just like piled everywhere on the counter beside the stove. Probably a good foot deep, like a really big stack of paper. I just kind of always added to it. I struggled to find things in there. Keys would go missing in there. Like, that's how much paper there was. And it was right beside the stove. So, I mean, not a good combination in the first place. And then I set the deep fryer up on the stove beside the paper. And I guess I thought I could prove myself maybe, by deep frying, even though it intimidated the crap out of me. So I dumped a bunch of frozen food into the deep fryer with, extra ice that was in the bag. And bam, the whole thing just went crazy, right? It was popping and spitting and overflowing. And, my husband was mad, because he gets mad when he gets worried. But I was terrified. It really scared me. And it woke me up to the fact that I had a giant stack of papers beside the stove. And I realized that I wasn't just behind. My mess had won. It had beat me. And I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't keep living this way and keep having everything be extra difficult, be extra dangerous, all of those kinds of things. So that counter, Yvette, it's hard with kids for sure. And that was actually kind of why I started out with online coaching, was to help moms deal with the clutter, because it was so hard with young children. And there was a lot of resources out there for decluttering in general, but not so much specific to kids. So when I started out, if you don't know this about me, I was the minimalist toddler mama, and I was a minimalist coach. So that was my focus at the time. I still include minimalism or simplifying, decluttering, all of that in my coaching methods. But now I'm a parenting and productivity coach, just because it fits me a whole lot better and covers more than just the clutter, because that's definitely my solutions were more than just the clutter. But anyway, back to my story. So, my screen is doing something weird. Not sure why. Oh, I think, there we go. Yeah, my dog laid on the keyboard. Okay, so that counter that was beside my stove, it was like a 2.5-foot square space, intimidated me so much that even after the deep fryer incident, it took me about 2.5 years to get it completely clear where I was able to maintain it and keep it that way. So let me know if you have ever felt that overwhelmed by your clutter, that you just you couldn't even tackle it. You couldn't even start on it. And it wasn't just paperwork that overwhelmed and intimidated me, although that's like my nemesis. I've always hated dealing with the paperwork. It was all sorts of things. It was toys, it was movies, it was everything. And so when I realized that I had too much, I started trying to organize. I started buying organizing tools and containers and all of this stuff to try to organize all my stuff. And I learned the hard way that you can't organize things that don't have a home. You just can't. They don't have somewhere to go. If there's not any space left to put them away, you can't put them away, right? So, and that seems so common sense to me now, but at the time it was just like, I just kept trying. I kept buying more containers and more organizational tools. So when I discovered minimalism, and simple living, I thought, perfect, I'll get rid of a bunch of stuff and then everything will be easy. And I figured I could do it in about a month. So did you know that the average American home has about 300,000 items in it? Yeah, 300,000. That's gross. Hey, hi, Ashley. Say hi as you're jumping on. Just make sure that you can hear me and everything. So I have personally gotten rid of about a third of that total, that 300,000. And the reason I know that is because in my minimalism circles, we, good morning. We track it. We actually have like games that we play monthly and stuff like that to get rid of our clutter. Diane actually is in that with me. So, I have personally gotten rid of about a third of that 300,000 estimated that is in most American homes. But that's about 5 years going now that I have been doing this. And while my end goal has moved, I still don't feel done. I feel like a lot more could go. But my husband and my kids are not minimalists by any means. They like to have some of their stuff. So, compromise. So the reason for this whole big long story about a deep fryer is to illustrate the impact that clutter can have on our lives. So for me, I got so overwhelmed that I basically came to a dead stop. I couldn't accomplish anything. I was so drained. Even though I wasn't accomplishing anything, it felt like I just never stopped. And it felt like I had worked all day. So, I mean, have you ever had that feeling where you're like, oh, I never stopped today. I didn't sit down. I didn't do anything. Or I did like nonstop. I was doing something and yet my house doesn't look any different, right? If that's you, drop me a 1 because that is so common where it's like, and it's so common too for your partner or husband to come in and be like, what did you do? Like, this house is a disaster. So it had me ashamed. I was beating myself up constantly, mentally and feeling guilty. And eventually it led to worsening my depression. So if you've ever been embarrassed about the state of your home and not wanted people to come over, not wanted to, have a visit with a friend or whatever, drop me a 2. That's a really painful state to actually be in, even though we kind of like block it and we don't think about it that much. But to feel that ashamed of our home is really, really difficult. It's really hard and it's really heavy. Yeah, Yvette, yes. Okay. So perfect. Well, not perfect. We don't want that, but I can help with that. So for me, the clutter caused massive anxiety. I have ADHD, for those of you that don't know, and my already scattered thoughts and patterns were so amplified by it all. Talk about distractions, right? 300,000 distractions. So, and it also, for those of you that don't know, I struggled with rage for a long time because of my depression. I wasn't dealing with my depression. I didn't realize I was depressed, and it turned into rage, and I had uncontrollable rage. I just could not stop being angry with my family. And which was also a really horrible thing. But the clutter fueled it. The clutter made it so much worse. And having it around, just my anxiety would just spike and I couldn't keep up and I was so overwhelmed. And it left me so busy that I never spent time being present with my kids. I never had time for outings, or I barely had time for a shower, let alone self-care or relaxation or any of that. I lost friends over never having time, over always saying I was busy. I lost years that I can never get back from my oldest's life. And clutter in general for people, not even at the level that I had, and I wouldn't even say I wasn't hoarder level, but everything was very full and everything was overflowing. So clutter at any level causes confusion. It causes delay. It exacerbates mental health conditions big time. It's a huge time waster. It's in the way. You have to shuffle things around. Think of dusting a shelf. If you have stacks of stuff on it, you might not dust it at all, first of all. And then there comes that little niggling voice that's like, you're not good enough. You're not keeping up. You should do better. So you might not dust it at all, or it will take so long to move all the stuff so that you can dust the shelf, put the stuff back because you have nowhere else to put it. Or even if it's not piles of stuff that doesn't belong there, if you have a lot of decor on a shelf, it takes that much longer to dust each item, right? So, it's definitely a time waster. If that shelf though is clear, if it's uncluttered or just has a few things on it, it is so fast to just wipe down a shelf or just to quickly dust those items, and maybe move one or two things around. So it does this. It slows you down and way beyond what you might even think, what you might even imagine. I had no clue how much my clutter was slowing me down. And now that I have decluttered, it is amazing how much I can get done in a very, very short time, especially when it comes to cleaning, but also with my business and everything. I'm able to find things more easily. It's quick, move on to the next step all the time. Clutter costs more money. This was one that was a surprising discovery for me as I simplified, was that the more I got rid of, the more money I seemed to have. And this is such a backwards thought. And it wasn't because I was selling everything, although I did try to sell a lot at the beginning. But I got to the point where it was just too much effort, especially online, to try to sell everything. And so I just started donating and finding different homes for stuff for free. But when you have so much, it becomes really easy to not be able to find something, and then it's something that you need, and so you rebuy it. So you spend more money, or you've got balanced piles and something falls and breaks, or it becomes a habit to shop as well. A lot of the time, as a way to try to feel better, it's I'll try to beautify my space, right? I'll try to get something nice to make it look nice. I'll try to get, like I said at the beginning, those organizational tools that I thought would fix everything for myself. So you end up spending more money actually because of it. And then it's a fire hazard. This was another surprising one for me, but when I actually learned that if the fire department comes into your house and you've got stuff everywhere, they consider that a fire hazard, and you can actually get fined for that. At least in Canada. I'm not sure about everywhere else in the world. And it's frustrating, right? Clutter is just frustrating when you can't find your keys, they're buried under something, or your lip balm, and you search for 10 minutes and then you go back to that same spot that you looked at first and dig a little bit deeper and you find it and you're just like, seriously? It was here, you know, and it's just frustrating. And then it also creates a habit of unfinished business. And this goes way beyond physical clutter. This is like missed birthdays because you just have too many things on your mind. This is having a laundry couch, having like a designated couch for your laundry. This is always having a full sink and never being caught up on dishes and never having the right dish that you need when you're trying to cook. This is when you have thousands of emails untouched in your inbox. This is when there are unhealed relationships in your life and you're not dealing with it because it's that level of overwhelm. It's a total other level of overwhelm. This is when there's cleaning left undone all the time. Your home maintenance is like bygone thought. Like it's not even a thing. Sorry, just one second. Cadence, can you take the dogs downstairs? Sorry, my animals decided it's playtime right behind the camera. So let me know if any of this is resonating with you, if it's causing any brain explosions where you're like, I didn't even think like clutter would have to do with that, or that might be why I'm feeling a certain way. And so what can we do about it though, right? I mean, the obvious answer is, declutter, but it's not as easy as it sounds. You know, when you're so overwhelmed already that you don't even get started, you're just not sure of the right way or what area to start with, right? Which area to tackle first. And that's another thing, is that clutter actually will also exacerbate like perfectionism and all of that. And then you get really frozen because you're just like, what's the right way? I don't know what the right way is, so I can't get started. And it just brings you to a dead stop, right? So number one, this is not where I started, but I wish it had been. The first thing, like the biggest focus, is to stop bringing more stuff in. So if you're worried about clutter, try to just be aware if you are doing what I had done, where you know you're trying to find organizational systems, or you're trying to beautify your space. You're trying to get like knickknacks that are going to make it look more beautiful, and it's in your mind it's going to fix this problem. It really doesn't. It just adds to it. So stop bringing more in. That's number one. My next best tip is to start where it's visible. So it can be really tempting when you're overwhelmed, and it doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's still true. It can be really tempting when you're overwhelmed to go dig into like a basement storage spot, like a closet or something like that. Just, start with like a big project that you're like, oh, that space is awful, so I should deal with that. But if you start with visible, like what's out and what's visible all the time, it has a lot more impact on the way your home looks, on the way you feel, on your mental capacity to handle everything in your life, really. And yeah, it has way more impact if you start with the visible, and you'll eventually get to those other spaces, but try to resist the temptation to start there. And then focusing on areas like your bedroom that will have the most impact. So one thing is, if you go to sleep in a really cluttered space, your mind will stay cluttered. If you clear your bedroom and you have like a nice, clear, clean space that you go to sleep in, it helps your mind to relax and unwind and just be able to get that good rest that you need. So having a clear space in your bedroom is really, really powerful. And it doesn't just have to be your bedroom, but focus on areas that are going to have a big impact like that. Things that maybe your biggest space that stresses you out is your bathroom. And every time you go in there, it's just like, ugh, what a disaster, right? Start there then, because that's going to have a big impact on you to stop feeling that way. Another tip is to decide ahead of time how you want your home to look and feel. Ask yourself every time that you're picking up an item and considering decluttering it, ask yourself if this contributes to the life that you want to live, if it enhances it, if it makes you feel good. And yeah, just ask if each item contributes to the outcome that you want. A favorite of mine is to always have a donate box going, and I call it a donatable donate box. If you don't know who Dana K. White is, she is the author of A Slob Comes Clean, and I absolutely love her content. She's hilarious. But she calls it a donatable donate box, and that's what I started calling it as well. It's you don't want to gather your clutter that you're going to donate into like a laundry hamper or some sort of a container that you actually want to keep. The container, you want to put it into a donatable container, whether that's a bag or a box, that you're going to be okay with letting go of, that you won't have to take the stuff back out of to donate. Because the more times you touch that stuff, the more times you question yourself, and you won't end up getting rid of as much. So that one has been really handy. Another one is to realize that decluttering means getting the stuff gone. It does not mean moving things around and organizing. Organizing and decluttering are two different things. So realizing that if you're going to declutter, if you're going to have an actual impact on your clutter, you need to actually get it out of your home. And treat decluttering like exercise, okay? It's like building a muscle. It's really a muscle. It gets easier as you go. It can be really hard when you start, partially because of the overwhelm and partially because if you tend to have a lot of clutter, you probably get attached to your things a little bit. And sometimes we know why and sometimes we don't. But so it can be really hard to let them go at first. And exercising that muscle, doing a little bit consistently over time will build that muscle and make it easier for you. Another thing is getting your family on board if possible, having them understand your why and what it is that's bothering you about your space. A lot of the time, especially our kids, but even our partners don't always notice it. Or aren't as bothered by it as we are. And then I don't want to call it visualization per se, but picture it, have an idea in your head of how peaceful it would be to have a clear space, what it would feel like for your eyes to see that, what it would, how calming it would be for your mind. And then enlist help. Kids are surprisingly good declutterers. Not all of them. There are, different personalities, obviously. Some kids tend to be more attached to things. Yeah, Brittany, it's really hard, especially with babies. We get this there's this expectation that we have to have all of the things, especially when we just have a baby. It feels like, you gotta have the crib, you gotta have the stroller, you gotta have the different chairs and swings and all these things. And it's so overwhelming. And while some of that stuff does go away as they get a little bit older, new stuff is going to come in. There's new stuff with every stage, right? So, choosing that you don't want or need to have all of the things, and that you can just, yeah, exactly. Yep. Honestly, most kids' favorite toy, pot and pan type things, paper towel roll, they don't need it. And actually, when it comes to kids, too much is a really big cause of contention in the home, because you ask your kids to go clean up and they head over there and they look at it and they go, I don't even know where to start, which we wouldn't either. So it's perfectly understandable. And then they don't do it, or they maybe start, but they're so overwhelmed that they just can't get through it. So knowing that from a really young age, Brittany, that's actually fantastic. And I've been more deliberate with my youngest because I was already simplified before she was born. It is overwhelming. It is overwhelming for them too, Brittany. My oldest, it was huge for her. And she's more of a keeper. There was like a point where she was keeping candy wrappers because she was going to do crafts with them. Like she just kept everything. But she never did anything with any of it because it was too overwhelming, right? So, and yeah, if you know that as an adult, it's overwhelming for you to clean something, then you know that your kids are going to be more overwhelmed than you. And they're never going to get good at it if they're that overwhelmed because they're just going to fight it, right? And so it causes so much contention. So it's a really great starting point from like 6 months old, right, Brittany? Like he has no attachment to having a lot of stuff. That's beautiful. Start it now. Right? It just makes it easier as you go. And one thing I wish I had known about was at Christmas. Like you just feel like you want to give them this big, huge thing and, so many presents and make it like this big, exciting thing. But actually keeping Christmas more simple and making it more about the occasion and about spending the time together and all of that is really, really powerful. I've slowly started to implement this with my kids, but they have like the preconceived expectation that there's going to be more, right? Because I started with more. So implementing that now while he's young, oh, beautiful. Good. Oh, good. Yay. No, Brittany, that's awesome. So those are some pointers for getting started. And then if you would like some guidance, I am going to be running a free 5-day decluttering challenge next week, starting on Monday, where we will tackle 5 key areas of your home and with my guidance, and I will point you to the ones that are going to have a lot of impact for you. And we'll dive deeper into what should go, what should stay, and why. So drop me a challenge if you would like the details for that, if you haven't already got them, if you'd like to register so that you get notifications and reminders and everything. And then last but not least, do I do rotation with toys? I do. I run a day home out of my house as well though. So I feel like because I have different ages, different genders, all of this stuff, I always have different kids that are kind of coming through, right? I absolutely feel like, I feel that necessity of like, I can't get rid of them. Also, a lot more toys break. I go through more that way because of it. So I do keep a little bit more than I would maybe recommend for most people, but a toy rotation is okay. One thing when I first started it was I just thought like, okay, instead of getting rid of toys, I'm just going to put away a lot of them and then I'll start rotating. And what ended up happening was I didn't rotate because I still had so many out. I had this like idea of what I thought should be out and it was still too many. I would still say get rid of a lot and then do the toy rotation. I think the toy rotation is great, but it can't be overwhelming or you're not going to do it, right? So still try to keep it a little bit more minimal. And absolutely, just so that everyone knows, like I love minimalism, but I don't expect everybody to love minimalism. But I do think that everybody can benefit from simplifying. So when I talk about all of this stuff, I don't necessarily expect that every mom is going to want to go full minimalist. But I do think that it will help any mother to simplify. And this, I've been mostly talking about physical clutter, but really the reason that I called this a masterclass today is because we can master clutter. And when we master our physical clutter, it starts to trickle out and ripple out into the rest of our lives. So it starts to affect mental clutter, emotional clutter, and digital clutter. Digital clutter is huge. Email inboxes, right, are the worst thing ever. But so anyway, so yeah, the decluttering challenge next week. Sorry, my brain stopped there for a minute. Decluttering challenge next week, we're going to tackle 5 areas. One area a day. It will be a bit of work. A lot of my challenges, I keep them really, really super simple, and it's like more of a mental task each day. This one will actually be a physical task of decluttering. And I will talk more about the why for each area and all of that each day. I'll dig more into it. And yeah, so anybody just let me know. If you are watching the replay, drop a hashtag replay, and then let me know if you want tagged for the decluttering challenge, if you want the link to register so that you can get the notifications, and I'll absolutely get that to you. And then last thing I wanted to talk about today, and this is a little bit unrelated, but not really, is that there are a few more spots left in my Simplify Your Schedule Kickstarter program, which starts on Monday as well. Okay, Brittany, I'll get it to you for sure. And that is, it's not too late to get into that. This one is very much about your time freedom and making things easier for yourself in that way. So that one is a really powerful, low cost. It's not super expensive, way to make a big impact in your life, simplifying your schedule. So yeah, of course, Brittany, you're welcome to add anybody. And let me know if you need them tagged for something as well. So just let me know who it is, because I don't know who your mom is. But yeah, so if you are interested in the Simplify Your Schedule Kickstarter, drop me a Simplify, and I will get you the link for that one as well to get registered for that. That one starts Monday, and I will leave the doors open for people to get in probably for about a week after. It's a 5-week live group program. And that is, I'll leave it open for about a week, but I don't want anybody coming in too behind and then feeling overwhelmed and not being able to catch up. So definitely no more than a week after that. And yeah, so we will be focusing on physical clutter next week. There will also be a bonus day, which some of you may have seen already, on the Saturday. And that one, we're going to do a little bit of a digital declutter as well. So the physical clutter, I think, needs to come first for most people, which is why the focus of the challenge will be on the physical. But there will be that little bit of a digital declutter at the end as well. And then, yeah, so I am really excited to get started on the declutter challenge. I will probably do it with everybody, just because one of the things that a lot of people don't realize either is that clutter creeps back in. So I've gotten a little bit behind. I've been working on it in January, and I'm going to continue working on it in February. But I will be leading the way by example. So I'm really, really excited to get started on that. It's been a while since I focused on the decluttering aspect of making things easier in our lives. So yeah, that is that. And let me know if you have any questions. I will also be opening up, I have a minimalist mama mentoring program. That one's hard to say. I will be opening up a couple of spots for that every time that I am focused on decluttering. So that is one-on-one. Again, it's a lower cost coaching program. It's not quite as high touch. And there are, I do laser coaching calls for that. So that is like 15-minute calls, make it really quick. Don't take a lot of time, which is huge when you are a mom, obviously, we know. And I'll be talking more about that a little bit throughout the challenge as well. If you're interested in that, drop me a mentor, and I'll get you the details about that. And yeah, so that's what I've got for today. I'm really excited for Monday. Please share. Absolutely. I think that's wonderful. Share, get more people on board with that. It's a free challenge. Like they're super powerful if you've ever been part of one. So, hopefully there will be lots of people joining us. So far it's looking pretty good. So I'm really excited for that. Thanks for being here, ladies. And I hope you all have a fabulous rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon.